What is up, everybody? Welcome to the YouTube channel. This is a project I've been wanting to start for a while now, and I figured what better way to start off the channel than with a YouTube video, just to discuss a little bit of who I am and my rise in sim racing over the last 2 years. So, a little bit of a background on me. If you've known me online, you probably have known me as the username Artemis, or some form of said username. Way back in my early days, I used to be Artemis Safe, but then I realized that not everybody could pronounce it. So, I decided to switch, especially since, a little while ago I had joined Distinct, so then my username was going to be incorporating Distinct. So since then I've been pretty much using just Distinct Artemis. So if you've seen me on Twitch, that's where that came from. In terms of what I've done before sim racing, I feel like most people who have been around the channel have known about me sim racing because they've seen it from start to where I am now. But actually, fun fact, before I was into sim racing, I was really passionate about gymnastics, and I did that for about 20 years of my life. So the competitive environment has always been something that I've been interested in and have tried to excel at. And with gymnastics, you have that chase of perfection, which is something that I have really grown to love, and it's something that is heavily involved in motorsports too. You're trying to find that perfect lap. So after 20 years, I was like, okay, well, what am I gonna do now? And like motorsports and things like that has always been something that I've been interested in, even growing up. My mom always watched NASCAR, and my dad, he was always into it, but more of like the wrenching on cars kind of deal. And we also had like quads and dirt bikes that I would always ride with my cousins, and it was always a really fun time. So to be able to have a space now where I have sim racing, where it's low cost of entry and it's something that I can really dive into that passion, it's been a really great ride over the last 2 years. So now let's delve into my whole sim racing career so far. So some people might be wondering, okay, well, how the heck did you get from a sim amateur who has never raced on a wheel, was only previously on controller? So how do you get from that to being a pro sim racer in 2 years? It's been quite a wild ride, I can definitely say that. I've always been a fan of the Gran Turismo franchise. Way back in the day when it was on PS2, I always played it. I remember the coffee breaks and all of those fun things. If you know, you know. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? Why don't I get back into Gran Turismo? A couple years ago, it was like right before Gran Turismo 7 was going to be released, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get a PS5, I'm going to get all the sim racing equipment that I want, and I'm going to try this out. I had actually tried out Gran Turismo Sport for a little bit on controller, and I was like, yeah, this is so much better than it was back in the day. And then I dove in head first and I got my rig. So if you've been in the stream, you've seen the Sparko bucket seat that I'm always sitting in. I've taken a couple naps in this thing, it's that comfortable. Once I got the rig and I got all of this stuff, and I was like, you know what? This would be really cool to create a community and get into streaming, and maybe I can find some other people just that love the game and, want to be a little bit more competitive. And so I started streaming about 2 years ago. I believe my first stream was like very end of January, beginning of February. So right around this time of year, 2 years ago. And yeah, everything has been great since then. I have met so many people in the Gran Turismo community. It was actually like beyond my wildest dreams. I remember being so excited because I was like, oh my god, I have like 3 people in my stream right now, and we're just chatting about Gran Turismo, and it was absolutely amazing. For about a year or so, I was really grinding Gran Turismo all the time. If I was streaming Gran Turismo. I was playing Gran Turismo, doing the dailies, doing the license tests, doing the menus, all of that. Just getting headfirst into all of it and making sure that I could make the most of my time on the game and try to find ways to be faster. And I had a lot of friends that helped me out throughout the way, gave me some pointers here and there. I also found a friend group that we could run daily races together and stuff like that. After about a year or so of grinding, and getting my rating up, getting the results from the official series and like all of that kind of fun stuff, I started reaching out to some esports teams and just like asking them what they were looking for in terms of like when they recruit drivers. And A lot of people will say like, oh, well, wait for the esports orgs to come to you. You can do that, but if you really want to show an interest, and especially if you have that content creator side of you, you could actually reach out to teams and just ask them, like, hey, by the way, what are you looking for in potential recruits for the team? And that was what I did. So Distinct had gotten back to me and they were like, yeah, you have to like, we're basically looking at driver rating, safety rating, results, stuff like that. If there's a leaderboard, try and be high up on the leaderboard. So I did just that, and then come December, I was invited to join Distinct. So during my time in Distinct, I was really leveraging, like learning from the other drivers, learning different like strats, how to drive different cars. If it was a car I was unfamiliar with, chances are on our roster we had somebody who was maining that car for the official series. So I would talk to them and be like, hey, you know, how do I approach this corner? How do I get the rotation that I want? You know, all of that kind of stuff. All right, so Distinct is obviously not the only thing that I do. I've obviously still been streaming throughout the 2 years, but you know, one of the things that I noticed about streaming is that if you really want to be a successful content creator, right, it really comes down to the community that you're building, interacting with your viewers, and making it engaging content that people actually want to turn up to streams because they want to interact with you as a streamer, or they just like to see your content and they find your content entertaining. So with GT7, you know, once you get to an esports level, and you're grinding and you're just running lap time after lap time after lap time, that's not necessarily the content that everybody wants to see. People would like to see that explained and whatnot, but they don't necessarily want to see you just churning laps for 3 hours on the stream. You know what I mean? So one of the things that I've done recently is I've been starting to branch out into other sims, and it's honestly been the best decision that I could have made. These other sims have come some new opportunities, which have been absolutely super, super exciting. The most exciting thing over the last couple of months, I would say, would definitely have to be the Red Bull Sim Racing Rock to the Rig competition. So if you haven't been in the streams and you haven't seen that aspect of it, but you're seeing in my bio at Red Bull Sim Race Rock to the Rig development driver, you might be like, what the heck is that? What do you mean development driver? So a little bit of, you know, details on that. So way back when I first saw the actual posting that they were like looking for female sim racers and they were doing this whole talent search, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I just downloaded F123. I have like 2 hours in the game. Let me just give it a go, see what happens. So I practiced a little bit. I had some friends that gathered up and helped me and gave me the resources that I really needed to help, you know, get my practice to be efficient and worthwhile. So by the first round, I had maybe about 20 hours of practice in the game. And Formula cars are much, much different than your typical GT3, GT4 road cars and things like that. So it was also a learning curve just in the type of car that I was driving. So that was also a little bit of a shell shock. Basically, each round would follow the same format. So they would have over a week, they would have a period where you could link the telemetry from the F123 game to your Red Bull Racing Paddock Club account. So that Paddock Rewards account that is free to make, it would link it with the telemetry so that every time you ran a lap, your lap time was automatically submitted on the server. So it prevented any chance of anybody saying like, oh, well, I ran this lap even though you didn't actually run it. So it really prevented the cheating or anything else that could have thrown a wrench into the fairness of the whole thing. So for a week long, you could run as much time trial as you wanted and submit as many laps as you wanted. I think for Monza, I submitted about 120 laps, but that was over a week. So I was running a few laps or so every night, and just trying to see where I could find a little bit more time and really pushing the car. And I had no expectations going into it. I was just like, you know what? It's free to enter. It's a really cool program where they're looking for female sim racing talent. And I'm just going to give it a shot, see what happens. I was like, worst comes to worst, I have some content for on stream for people to see. And I also have something to talk about with, you know, doing a program that Red Bull puts on and talking about my experience. So I was like, I really have nothing to lose at this point. After the week of submitting time trial times, they would go through and the top 20 times they sent out an email, and then they would tell you, hey, by the way, you're within the top 20, so you've been selected to race this coming Friday. If you were selected to race, then they had a whole race briefing. Usually that was on a Wednesday before the race that was on a Friday. They would basically just tell us, hey, by the way, it's not like who wins is guaranteed a seat. So they had 3 rounds. They were all structured the same. And all 3 of those rounds, they would have a race, and then they would pick 2 people from each Friday race for a total of 6 to join the program. So I was like, man, this is like actually like crazy. I'm surprised I even made the top 20. And now like there's a chance that I could be the top 2 within these 20, which was, wow, like a lot of pressure. Especially for somebody like me who's very competitive. I got to a point where I was like, man, like, you know, I wasn't expecting to make it this far, but now that I made it this far, I really want to put on a good showing and really give it my best effort, because like there's actually a shot at this. I spent as much time as possible prepping for this race, getting a strategy together, making sure that I had everything that I needed on race day so that I wasn't like second guessing and all of that stuff. I was still a nervous wreck and shaking after qualifying, but you know, everything else that I could control, I was getting it in control and making sure that I had it prepared in advance. Come race day, we were all very respectful with racing, and we were all kind of running our own race and just trying to like show off as much as we could, like our skill, but obviously not to the point where like people were running each other off track or there was all kinds of incidents. Like it was actually a really good race. And I actually spun once, but I kept it out of the wall. So I was like, okay, we're good. We can recover from this. And I think that was also one of the things that had actually been a blessing in disguise, because they looked for 5 different traits in people. So they were looking for, you know, your adaptability, your competitiveness, your consistency. So they had a whole list of things they were looking for beyond just, are you fast and can you run a race and win it? So yeah, there was a lot of different things they were looking for in that aspect. And after the race, we had to send a screenshot of whatever assists that we used so that they could verify that. And then we also let them know what equipment we were running on. So there were some people who were running on controller, some people who were running on wheel and base setup like I have. So it didn't really matter which you were running on, they would still consider anybody. And in the final program, I think 4 out of the 6 of us are actually on controller. In terms of Rock the Rig, we're still in the whole process of the whole program. So in December, they had invited me and the 5 other finalists out to the actual Red Bull headquarters in Milton Keynes, which was absolutely phenomenal. We had a whole, they called it an accelerator day. So we had an accelerator day over at the factory there. They gave us a whole tour of everything, which unfortunately I will not be able to show pictures of the inside of the factory because it is something that is top secret information on their end. They don't want anybody to be sharing that, which understandably, because that could give another team a competitive edge if they find that on social media. So yeah, so no pictures of the inside, but I do have some pictures. Like I have this one here where I was standing in front of the entire spread of cars that they have, holding the world champion board, which was really awesome. And then I also have this one over here where I was with Seb and Jed, and yeah, that was like, we got to meet them and it was absolutely awesome in the esports arena. So now we are in the thick of the actual program. So throughout 2024, all of us in the program are going to be getting one-on-one coaching with Seb and or Jed. So they are like their top 2 esports drivers right now, and they will be giving us tips and tricks and helping us like take that next step in our sim racing career. And it's been an honor to even be a part of the program, but also it's just something that I have to pinch myself every now and then, because I'm like, wow, I'm actually like talking to these people that I have been looking up to for a very, very long time. The week after I got back from the UK, I had another exciting opportunity come up. So similar to Rock the Rig, where I just entered and I was like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? I just don't get selected. I kind of did the same thing all over again, and I'd like to joke that I girl boss too close to the sun. So SRO Motorsports Group North America, if you're unfamiliar, they run a lot of the classes here, so GT4, GT3, all of that great stuff. They are like the main body that runs all of those race series. But they also have been diving into esports. They have a really awesome esports competition that they do every single year. And they had posted on their Instagram talking about, oh, we're going to be at PRI and we're going to have an esports arena. Apply to be one of the drivers in the esports arena. And I was like, okay, say less. So I just applied and I was like, it doesn't cost anything to apply. Chances are I'm not going to be like, up there in their top choices. I'm just going to send it, see what happens. So I basically submitted my whole, I guess you could call it sim racing resume. I included the Red Bull Rock the Rig program. I included my time on Distinct, and any of the race achievements that I had in Gran Turismo 7, since that was my main sim prior to that. And I just threw it out there and I was like, yeah, we'll see. I don't even have experience on Assetto Corsa, but we're just gonna try it. Lo and behold, a couple weeks later, they had actually emailed me and they were like, hey, you're like one of the sim pros selected to compete on Thursday of PRI. And I was like, oh, cool. So as exciting as it was, I was really nervous because it was a sim that I had never even dipped my feet into. And then with ACC, one of the main things to note is that there's a console version and there's a PC version. So the console version is different in physics than the PC version. The PC version is definitely, I would say, a step above. It's definitely really a high quality sim to get into if you really want that realism. And it was something that I really had to learn all the ins and outs of that sim and how to like somehow set up a car, run a decent pace, pit stops, all of that stuff. I had to figure that out within about a week before PRI. I definitely felt very unprepared, but I was like, you know what? My first live in-person event. So I went, I was just there to try and learn as much as I could, get used to the whole live event environment, because that's also very different than, oh, I'm just on my rig at home and I'm streaming on my other screen and blah blah. Like at PRI and any live event, there's a live audience. So if people are making mistakes, if you make a mistake, if you hit somebody, like you hear reactions in the crowd, you see people looking at you, there's people asking you questions. So there's a whole nother element to it where it's like, if you're streaming, it's nice because you already have that, like you're already used to being on a stage and being in that light, but the live event takes that one step further. PRI was a little bit of a shell shock when I first went. I was like, wow, there's like all these people here. They had their actual drivers that were like in their series, like Samantha Tan, Kevin Boehm, and many others that were all there. And I was like, oh my God, like I have wanted to meet these people in person, but now they're going to be here and they're going to be watching me drive on the sim with a whole broadcast that was also being broadcasted to Twitch, I believe also to YouTube, and they had such a huge turnout. I mean, there was people walking around for the actual PRI conference, which is basically everything motorsports, everything and anything motorsports in North America. So if you're wanting a career in motorsports, definitely go to PRI. But there's so many people that are there that are into racing and they're all coming over and they're like, what is this esports arena thing going on? So everybody's checking it out. So there's definitely that added little bit of pressure going on there. But overall, I would say it was an absolutely amazing experience. I got to meet so many other drivers on the grid that I had never met before and never raced before. And we got to share, our experiences with sim racing. They gave me tips because like they're very much well versed in ACC. I'm not. So they were like, hey, like, yeah, if you want to get setups, this is like where we primarily get setups and we usually make these kinds of adjustments. And, it's such a great camaraderie within the sim racing community. I think a lot of people think that it's very cutthroat because it's competitive, but I would say it's quite the opposite. It's very much like we all want to see each other excel and do really well. So, there's that sharing of knowledge, sharing of experience, and all of that stuff, which is absolutely amazing. And it's something that really makes me appreciate the sim racing community as a whole. So yeah, PRI, the esports arena, was great. I actually ended up having 2 of my distinct teammates selected to go with me, so that was absolutely insane. We were all like so excited. We were like, oh my god, we finally get to meet up in person, let's go. So it was like a little bit of a team, you know, bonding little thing, and we got to meet each other and hang out with each other, which was awesome. So we had that aspect, but then also there was just the aspect of being at PRI and getting to meet so many other people in the sim space. I mean, I also talked to people from Racing Prodigy, which is an iRacing sim to real series. I got to talk to a whole bunch of different like rig manufacturers, other esports drivers, you know, the whole nine. All right, so creator series. Now, what's that about? So creator series is something that I've joined not necessarily to focus on my sim racing craft. It's definitely helped with that. But the primary goal was honestly just meeting other people in the community, and having extra content to stream for everybody. So that has definitely been something that I've seen a great return on. Everybody seems to like the chaos of F2. So I'm definitely not in the top tier, which is F1 of Creator Series. They have very awesome people who have been very established within that series, but recently they have opened up the F2 division. So the F2 division is basically like a feeder series for the F1 division. So the top person who wins the F2 series automatically gets a seat in F1 for the next series, the next season. And then if you're between the next 5 after the first place winner, they get to basically duke it out and try and get another seat in F1 Creator Series. So it's definitely a whole lot of fun. It's very chaotic. The F2 cars are a lot more difficult to drive, in my opinion, than the F1 cars. So I'm pretty much there for the vibes every single weekend. But it's been great. We've gotten a lot of content out of it. And it's definitely something that I hope to continue in the future. Other than that, the other thing that I did want to touch on is that I am actually participating in the Racing Prodigy series on iRacing. So this season, that is going to be in the Legacy Miatas, or the Legacy MX-5s. So they're going to be doing races every single weekend. I am hoping to stream all of them, but if I don't, I will still be filming them, because it is something that I'm definitely going to be making a YouTube series on. So if you guys are very interested in seeing a behind the scenes of prepping for any type of, you know, sim competition, be sure to check that out. But then I'll also be giving my input on like how the actual series is run and things like that, because this is like season 1 of Racing Prodigy, so they're going to be working on a lot of things and improving a lot of things over the coming years. So if you're somebody who's looking to get into it for future seasons, it's also going to be a great resource for you to kind of understand how it works before you dive right into it, which will definitely also help you prepare and make sure that you're up to speed to give your best shot at it. And I think that just about covers my whole journey up to this point. So going forward, I'm definitely still going to be streaming. If anything, I'm going to be streaming a little bit more now that I've finished my master's degree. If you do want to catch a Twitch stream, be sure to follow me on there. All the links will be in the description below. But usually we stream on Tuesdays for Tuesday Throttle Therapy, which is one of the F123 leagues that I'm in. Thursday nights are usually a little bit of a free-for-all. It really depends on what I'm going to be doing for that coming weekend. It's going to typically be some type of race prep, whether that's on iRacing or ACC. Also, if we do any SRO community races, those will be on ACC, and those are typically on Thursday nights, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. I usually announce those well in advance. And then we also stream Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with Saturday being Creator Series, and Friday and Sunday being more free-for-all days, whether it's grinding, iRating, prepping for a race, or even just doing races with viewers. Be sure to tune in for one of those Twitch streams if you want to catch me live doing some racing. And otherwise, subscribe here for more polished content that will be more behind the scenes of prepping for things, and more cohesive than just me shouting for 3 hours on a stream. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more videos in the future, and comment down below if there's anything specific that you guys want to see from this channel. Like I said before, I'm definitely going to be bringing a behind the scenes look at the Racing Prodigy series as I'm completing that over the next few weeks. I will also be doing a series to give you guys a behind the scenes look as much as I possibly can of the Red Bull Sim Racing Rock the Rig program. So if you're more curious about that and what Red Bull is doing to help women in motorsports, then definitely be sure to check that out as those series comes out. Those will most likely be more on a monthly basis. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that, and I will see you guys in the next video.